Alright, I got the rear bumper off. It was way too long of a project. I think I started like 2 hours ago, something like that. Anyway, finally off. Hardest part, probably the whole thing. These 3 bolts over here. There's a nut and a bolt. 3 of them. I don't know if these will show up. This one, pain in the ass. Pain in the ass, pain in the ass. The bottom one was definitely the worst. Basically all of them accessed through the inner fender liner. You kind of got to peel it back and kind of pull all this back and reach in from here and get that. The bottom one definitely the hardest. They do appear to be nut and bolt, not studs. At least the bottom one for sure. I can't remember these top 2 here and here what they were. These were just simple bolts just go into, looks like just some threaded steel or tap steel there. Sheet metal. Didn't see them at first, but let me grab them. Behind the license plate there's a couple of these, just a plastic coarse screw. It just goes into the foam, kind of keeps the foam tucked tight. I just pulled this one out before I realized it and moved the license plate. This one I went ahead and just stuck a screwdriver in the square to get it removed. So next up, just these 3 10mm bolts. Remove the foam. This I just drilled out the rivets to keep it to get it off the bumper. I just drilled them out first. I'll probably end up deleting all of this, including the actual complete original latch mechanism. It's pretty heavy. Also totally forgot about the old I guess they're airlines for the old butterfly exhaust from the factory, so I'll end up getting rid of all of these lines, all these connectors, etc. I'll get rid of all that stuff. Same thing with all this, and then the actual latch itself is, it's probably too backlit. There you can kind of see the latch itself. It's pretty big. It starts about here and goes all the way over here. All stamped steel. I don't know what all this is, but there's a brick bolted behind it, bunch of electronics. So then wiring comes all the way over here, all the cables, etc. So I'll end up getting rid of all that, but the hard part's done, bumper's off, so keep moving forward. Alright guys, I got my holes all drilled in the bumper, top and on the rear. That was pretty simple. I did have to, on the bracket here where it sits up top and the top flange is there, I did have to relieve, you can kind of see it right there, I did have to do a little bit of grinding on that just to relieve it enough for this factory weld. As I was putting the top plate on, it was actually hitting it and kind of rolling up the top of it, wouldn't let it sit flat, but easy fix. It was just a millimeter or 2, so I just put a little relief angle in the bottom of both of the brackets, and that fixed that. I kind of went back and forth on rib nuts versus actual nuts and bolts. I think the rib nuts would be more than strong enough, especially where there was both vertical and kind of horizontal there. It's kind of landlocked, can't go anywhere, but I did eventually end up deciding to go with the nuts and bolts. Ended up having to borrow a extra long wrench here to reach in there, and it does just reach out the end. Just put some blue tape on the back to hold the nut. Then I can put it in there, jam it in, and then hit it with the impact. So like I said, I did decide to go with the nuts and bolts, even though it's going to be a little more of a pain in the ass, but it should make it a permanent thing where I don't have to worry about it in the back of my mind. So next step. Alright, I got the mounts on. Just tighten 2 of the bolts, the 2 closest ones to the end. These inner ones are just kind of placeholders, just ensuring everything's lined up good, but everything fit good. Just got to move on up top and start marking the slots for the bumper. So that'll be next. Alright, I'm just going to use this blue tape to transfer onto the bumper. Just line it up with the upright. side. And I'll just take my marker, mark the depth. I'm going to do both sides just in case. Do the same over here. I'll remove these, put the bumper on, I can transfer the line. Alright, I got my tape transferred and my Sharpie on there. I don't know if it's going to show up. I doubt if it will this close, but just traced it, just laid them down and traced them, marked my endpoints I had there. As you can see, it's not perfectly straight, so it goes from wider to narrow. I assume that's because of the compound curve of the bumper. They both do it. They start at about where it needs to be and they both kind of angle in. And I assume that's because I was pulling the tape straight, and now they're kind of laying down and rolling off the side of this hump right here. So I'll need to do some thinking, figure out which side I need to kind of cheat the line on to get the width I need. But it's all transferred. See the line under there? I'll just pull the tape back, make a first cut, and start test fitting. All right, slots are cut. As I kind of talked about before, the taper, the two tape markers were kind of coming together, so I just cut them as they were. Cut them as they were, and then just did a test fit, trying to figure out which side I needed to cut the line a little bit more. They ended up both being on the left side for some reason. So I've got all that cut. Mistake number one, just so nobody else does it, I assumed I'd be cutting this all the way through, so I did not mark the front. Well, it turns out it's not even close. The upright ends about here, so I've got a good ½ inch of hole that I didn't need. So my super tight fit kind of went all out the window there with that mistake. I just didn't think it was even going to be a problem. Like I say, I thought I'd be cutting all this away, but it's about a ½ inch down here. So that's going to be a big gochie hole, but oh well, race car. Alright, I've done a couple of test fits. I'm getting closer on my cuts there. They're parallel, just trying to get it centered and everything just perfect. It's getting really close. The passenger side over here, it's actually fitting real good. Its bumper's really flush. Over here on the driver's side, the bumper's wanting to stay inboard. I think my slot's a little bit too far inboard, not letting the bumper come out and maybe buckling in the center a little bit. So I'm going to try to relieve on the bumper. I'm going to try to relieve the back of the cut on this side, hoping it'll let the bumper go this way and let this be a little more flush. I also had a suspicion, and it ended up being true. I felt like the inside the bumper, it's backwards, but let's see, I had a suspicion this concave where the badge is, right in the center line of the taillights, I had a suspicion it was hitting the uprights before letting this thing go, before letting it go all the way basically in. So I took some nail polish and painted the edge of both of these where I suspected it was hitting it. You can actually see my Sharpie marks there, and over here, sure enough, I was right. It hits the, you can just see the little bit of paint there. It does the same thing over here. So I'm going to do a little relief cut on these uprights. It'll be inside the bumper, so it won't matter, and I'll probably just do a little ¼ inch inset there to make sure I've got room for those headlight buckets, and make sure the bumper can go all the way in so it's not hitting here. And I have a hunch when I do that I'm going to need to elongate my slots over on the bumper, because they're basically right now they're right at it, so they're also kind of a stop point. So I have a hunch once I relieve this, I'll also need longer slots over here on on the bumper to let it go inward more, because right now it's to the millimeter. So a little bit of fine tuning, but getting pretty close. Alright, I got my relief cut made. It's this is the intersect point where it intersects the bumper. The center's down 4.5 inches. I went 2 inches above and below that. I went about 1/4 inch deep there. Still a good 5/8 or 3/4 inch of material there, so shouldn't be any issue with strength. It should help me clear those headlight buckets there. If I went another inch in on my upright spacing, maybe wouldn't have been a problem, because it did kind of seem to only strike in the headlight buckets. If it had been out here in the middle, it may not have actually hit, so it might have been fine. But just because I tried to max out my width without getting into the taillights, it was just that close. Alright, I got the uprights permanently mounted. They're all 4 now. Got nuts and bolts through them for the final time. Got all that done. Started cutting the bumper support or foam, whatever you want to call it. For here, I've got all those cut, ready to go back on. Other side's done as well. So I think I'm about finished here. I've also removed the latch from in here. It's laying out here. I removed all the original factory hatch latch. This is the piece in the bumper from underneath, and of course inside here had a couple of had one antenna, I think, and a power and a ground that went to each side of the car. I ended up just cutting those out from the bottom of the hatch here. But basically, I've got everything done. I think ready to go back on for the final time. So we'll see how it goes. All right, I got this thing all bolted up here. All the uprights are permanently in. I got my foam all cut and redone there. Got those cut to clear the braces there. So that all worked good. The clearances I went over there before. This is just kind of loosely bolted up for now. But everything fits, everything goes. The hatch does not open with the wing on. It's actually going to get worse when I have the new uprights made to move the wing forward to get it SCCA legal. So for sure I won't have use of the hatch. I'll have to do something else there, but that's fine. Since I took out all the mechanism, since I'm not going to use it, I can get rid of the struts and everything. So that'll save a little bit of weight there as well. But I got one little issue with this passenger side upright. It seems to be welded at about 85 degrees instead of 90. You can really kind of see it right here. There makes about a 1/4 inch gap there versus the straight 90 degree here. You can actually see it down here when you run a square between the two uprights there, which wouldn't be that big of a deal. I could easily bang on this to get it back to 90. The problem is I cut my slots in the bumper cover to match this. I can't remember if I videoed that or not, but they are, I mean, perfect to the millimeter. So if this moved, I would have to recut my bumper holes, and then obviously have a big Gochi hole on this side, which shouldn't matter, but to me it does. So we have to try to figure out something there. I don't know if I could do some spacers up here on the top, if I could try to get enough twist. I doubt in this 1/4 inch material if I could get any twist in that. I'm going to have to try to see if I can do something there, but everything else worked pretty good, bolted up well. End plates on. These are temporary, they're too big for SCCA, but I'll get those remade and see what we can do. Alright, I'm under the car now with the lower valance removed. You can see the two studs that were a pain in the butt when this thing was coming apart. There's also a nut and bolt at this very lower portion here. I'm probably not going to put it back on, but these are the two studs that are kind of a pain in the butt. This one's much easier now that the lower valance is off here in the back by the exhaust, but the top one's still pretty tough just because there's no space to really get a wrench in there, and reaching in from the wheel well is kind of tough too. It's a pretty long reach to get in there. So anyway, these are those two bolts that are kind of tricky. Alright, I've got the wing all mounted, bumpers all back on, bolted up, done, even on the underside. I've got all that finished. All bolted up pretty good with that bent or welded crooked upright over here. I ended up just throwing a washer in between there, and that seemed to work. It's got a little bit of pressure from twisting it, so we'll see how the bumper holds up, and hopefully it won't crack out the corners, but it seemed to work out okay. Easy enough fix, so I can live with it. But wings on, all done. Works pretty good. It was kind of cool. I was walking out here. It was windy as I was coming out of the house with it, and I could actually feel it making downforce in my hand as I was walking out here with it. So that was kind of neat. But anyway, it's all bolted up, looking good. About to put the end plates on, and this should be wrapped up.